Greetings and welcome to Pinball Whack-A-Mole. Actually, no, PinballHelp.com. But today it is Whack-A-Mole, which is a common occurrence when you're diagnosing pinball problems. You fix one problem, something else pops up. And I'm going to show you what problem we are dealing with today. And that is what happens when a flipper just stops working, just for no particular reason at all. So let me plug some stuff up, start up a game, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. I was doing some work on this game, everything was working fine. And if you were following the video series, you know I've been working on this center bank of drop targets, and I hacked the driver board to make it work. And now I've got all that working, so I'm like, I waxed the game, and I was cleaning it all up, and I was looking forward to playing it, fixing a few more little ball things or something. But start the game up. There's not a ball in the playfield, but left flipper, right flipper's not working at all. Why is it not working? Oh. Yeah, I set the game to go low, so it racks up credits, although I've got the board in there that will do free play. So my right flipper is out. What is up with that? What is up? So let me show you how I went about diagnosing this problem. And the first thing you want to do when you have something like this is, first thing to do is just look for obvious problems. Pull the playfield up, look for a broken wire. That's the most common thing when a flipper goes out. Usually it's one of the soldered lugs on the actual flipper coil. In this case, that wasn't it. So then you want to, first you always just want to look over everything. Check and see if there's a fuse that's blown. In this case, this is a Bally-35, so the fuses are going to be over there on the little power driver board in the corner of the thing. Sometimes they're in the middle of the machine, or they're on one of the circuit boards. Check the fuses. All the fuses were good, so that wasn't the problem. Okay, so it gets a little more complicated. Check the coil. Is the coil okay? Pull the machine up, put your ohm meter on, checking resistance, your voltmeter on ohms, and you check the resistance of the coil. That all measured. So then what do you do after that? Okay, let's follow the wiring. Let's follow the powertrain, and then the next thing to do, I'll take it from there, and we'll just show you. So let's put the playfield up. And so there's no broken wires at the coil, and let me point this right up here. So there's our coil right here, and there's our wires. So these are the things right here. This is going to be your high power and your low power portion, and this is the end of stroke switch, which switches between the two. You can hook your meter up and measure between the middle and either outer layer, and then trigger the end of stroke switch, and you'll see a different reading in the resistance. There'll be a low power and a high power portion of the coil. So after that's been checked, what do you do then? Well, the next step is to see if we've got power to the coil. So let's go ahead and turn the machine on. Put our meter on DC voltage. Move our light a little bit out of the way. Okay, so here's how we do this. We're going to take the negative line of the voltmeter, and we're going to put it somewhere on the ground braid. So down here we can stick this little puppy right in there like that. So that's on the ground. Okay, now we've got the positive right here. Let's go back up to the coil, and let's see if we can find any voltage on the coil. So game is on. Do we have voltage? So we'll touch one of the brown wires, because that's where our voltage is. And you see we've got 44.3 volts. Let me do that. So we do have voltage to the coil. So that is working. You can also check the actual flipper switch in the game and check to see if that's working. Now let's just see if the coil will fire. So how we're going to test this is I'm going to take alligator clip and I'm going to clip to the colored end, the orange right there, and I'm going to take the other end of this and I'm going to tap it to the side lockdown bar and see what happens. And what we're basically going to do is just temporarily ground it. See that? So whoop, that basically is the equivalent of what we're seeing. So we know that the flipper assembly is working, and we know that there's power to it. So what's up? What is the next step now? Well, now you start tracing cabinet wiring. Okay? So what you can do is we'll get down here and we'll look into the cabinet. Move this little thing around here, you can see. So there's our flipper switches right here. I'm going to turn the game off. So there's basically two wires. In this case, it's an orange and a red wire. And they both go to the driver board. So this is one of those times where you grab the schematics. I'm going to drop. And what I would do is I would put an alligator clip around one of the wires and check continuity between the flipper wire and where it's supposed to terminate in the back box. Okay? And that's where you look at the schematics and you figure out, okay, this terminates to, you know, let's see, in this case, the right flipper goes, and I actually looked at the schematics and I made some notes. Let's pull back out here and drop the playfield. And there we go. Now we're back on this. So I made some little notes here, and I've got right flipper button goes to A3J2 pin 1. So A3 means board 3. A1, A2, A3. I believe A1 is the MPU board, A2 is the power supply board, A3 is the solenoid driver board. So J2 is jumper 2, that's going to be the labeled J2 up in the cabinet. So let's go take a look up there at this board here. And this is where all the action is going to be. So let's take a look at what we're dealing with here. So first thing we need to do is figure out if there's a broken wire. Now, the easiest way to do this really is to just look, you know. Sometimes if something like this is broken, pull the cabinet up, look at the wiring harness and see if any wires got pinched or kinked or something. Because usually that's the most common problem is, you know, when somebody was closing the playfield, they got something stuck and it caused some problems. So in this case, the wire goes from the flipper button to J2 pin 1. That's this right here. So this is a red wire, and the one underneath it is to the left flipper button. So it's right flipper button and left flipper button. And then, so what we can do is we can put an alligator clip down there on the actual flipper leaf switch, and we can trace continuity up to this thing. And then we can pull this off, and we can check continuity in here down to that, and we'll know immediately if there's a broken wire. I checked that, it came out good. So what's up with that? What is up? Well, that's where you go back to the schematics. Let's take a look at the schematics, and I'll show you what we're dealing with. So we'll just go right down here to our schematics, and there's the magic area right there that is this not too far away to capture? It's the only problem with my little camcorder. it needs 3 feet before it can focus. So is that, can you see that? Is that coming out, or is it still too, let me see, is that working? I can't tell. It doesn't look like it's in focus, huh? Let me see if I can position this so I can show this to you. So I'll set it up in the back here, and then I'll zoom in on it with the camera. Okay. All right. So here's our section right there. Okay. So this is our flipper setup. You have J2 pins 1 and 2 are going to the flipper button, and then there's this lockout relay, and then it goes to the coil. So we check the other side of the coil by checking continuity between the colored wire on the coil and where it gets its power. So it gets its power from this upper, the plug up here, which is A2J1. So the plug J1 sends the power, or actually, yeah, that's right. So pins